Chapter 82. Walter faces massive criticism. The concert in the Domkirche Eberhard in Stuttgart. At first a resounding success, later a nightmare. The well-accustomed Walter, always accurate and virtuoso in his performances of his own and others' works, faced massive criticism after a concert in the Domkirche Eberhard in Stuttgart. Walter had been surfing a wave of fabulous success right from his studies as a church music student and later a composition student. He was a master in everything he did and now enjoyed international recognition. The concert in the Domkirche Eberhard in Stuttgart was professionally advertised in advance on all channels and media. The influx of audience was completely out of the ordinary, and many were not allowed in and had to follow the concert on a streaming platform at home in their living rooms. The repertoire was varied and carefully planned with regard to a natural formal progression. That is to say, the music historical aspect was well taken care of in order to give the greatest possible effect to the great premiere of Walter's own organ symphony. This was to crown the great works presented. Walter had really looked forward to this occasion. The last year was devoted to work on the organ symphony. He strongly believed that this would mark a turning point in his career. So expectations were sky high. The concert went off without any major complications in all the expected chaos beforehand. Walter was lifted out of the church to deafening applause that would never end. Exhausted and happy, he threw himself onto his bed in the Steigenberger Graf Zeppelin Hotel. Top suite accompanied by a frothy Lowenbrau Pors beer and a strong Malteser schnapps. Well deserved. He faded away and woke up abruptly when there was a loud knock on the door. He opened it gingerly and three gentlemen from the impresario's agency entered the room with worried expressions on their faces, all three of them. From all the joyous noise, some suspicious messages had crept in from the city's main newspaper, the Stuttgarter Zeitung. The sender was the famous critic Dieter Baumgarten. He could be deadly in his criticism, but also generous with praise and kind words. This time there were no kind words, only harsh criticism, and it was going to get worse. Walter dismissed this episode and sternly told the impresarios that they could have waited until the next morning. They got out of it. Walter was given peace. But a simmering anxiety had settled in his diaphragm. He had the solution for that. Knock ein beer bit and a new Malteser. It wasn't easy to sleep either. So he continued with a few beers and some schnapps throughout the night. It numbed the anxiety then and there, a kind of strange mixture of euphoria and a nagging, restless pain in his stomach. He knew deep down that choosing medicine in the situation he now found himself in was not a good choice. In the early hours of the morning he finally got a couple of hours of sleep before there was a banging on the door at 7:30. Now there was a whole group of people, quite agitated and noisy. Walter was called to the reception area immediately. A press conference was announced at 8 o'clock. This came on suddenly and Walter was anything but ready with an unparalleled skull-banging. So much commotion. What was the point of this? He had committed no crime, only a valiant exercise of known and unknown intellectual property. He was aware that there might be a couple of controversial descriptions in the program booklet that he had written and edited himself. Walter had generally developed a unique view of art. But all the time we lived in the free world with freedom of speech, his statements had never created anything but harmless criticism and lively exchange of opinions. Criticism and opposition are something everyone must expect if one is honest and free-speaking. Clearly, his view of art had ignited the academic community in Stuttgart. At the head of the line was the music critic Dieter Baumgarten. He was the first to the microphone. With trembling indignation he accused Walter of sedition of the most cunning kind. Disguised as art criticism, Baumgarten felt particularly offended and had mobilized his friends from Stuttgart University to revolt and call for an uprising. This was a revolt of the rare kind. In fact, an ideological coup from an unexpected source, namely from the administrators of intellectual works. Walter answered all questions bravely, but concluded by saying that he would meet the press in a week at the same place to elaborate. The last word had not been said in this matter.